हमारे वक्त की धड़कन, हमारा चिंतन, हमारी भावनाएं, हमारे विचार, कभी कोमल बातचीत तो कभी इंटरेक्शन तेज तर्रार। तय करें मिलकर व्हाट इज रॉन्ग, व्हाट इज राइट। आईटीवी पर अशोक व्यास के साथ इनसाइट टुनाइट। नमस्कार, मैं अशोक व्यास, कार्यक्रम नाम इनसाइट टुनाइट विद अशोक व्यास। और इस कार्यक्रम में हम बात करते हैं उन विषयों की जो जुड़े हुए हैं हमारे जीवन से, करते हैं साथ साथ विचार, ताकि समझ पाए जीवन को, अपने आप को थोड़ा और बेहतर ढंग से। A way of developing collective sense of that insight which helps us in connecting with the joy that is there in us, and also working in our humble little way towards making this world a better place to live. Times we find ourselves groping in the darkness, trying to find what is it that we really want to do in our life. और ऐसे में जब आधे रास्ते में हमें लगता है कि दिस इज नॉट व्हाट आई वांटेड टू डू, देन वेरी फ्यू ऑफ अस हैव दैट करेज एंड कमिटमेंट एंड डिटर्मिनेशन to actually change the course of our life. And the gentleman who is joining me today started off as software engineer. He came on H1 to America as software engineer, but he felt that he finds his heart taking him towards studying religion. And then he decided to do MA, which he did at Columbia University. And then he went on to finish his PhD. Wrote many books, has become professor, and now Professor Pankaj Jain, who has been somewhere connected with ITV through various interviews during his initial days, has also written Dharma and Ecology of Hindu Communities, Sustenance and Sustainability. This book brought Dhanam Book Award to him, and also he is the recipient of Uberoy Book Award. So this Fulbright fellow joined me from Texas, and I asked him, how was it changing the course of his life, and having spent 10 years in his new role of teaching and reading about religion, how it makes him feel. So let's take a look at first part of my conversation with Professor Pankaj Jain. What is it that makes us take that crucial decision of changing our career? So taking us to that point when you started to think about doing something else than computers, and how you feel 10 years down the line.
Yes, thank you, Ashok, again. And I remember first time when you interviewed me more than 10 years ago. At that time, I was in between my master's and PhD. And here I am, having completed my PhD, having published my book, having published several articles, and also for Times of India and Huffington Post and many, many other online venues. So yeah, this country, when we all come to this country as a new immigrant, it makes us think that what we are missing actually, what exactly we are missing. We are missing our country, obviously, but we are also missing our culture, and that somehow it makes us more serious to do some more research, some more reading of our culture. And so I also was in that phase early on when I came in this country in '96. And then I also thought that I do have interest and passion for Sanskrit and cultural studies, social studies. So I thought I'll give it a try. I joined masters. With all the blessings, I did get admission into masters at Columbia University, one of the top universities in this country and the world. And after masters, I was again very, very fortunate, very privileged, blessed to be also admitted into PhD with full scholarship and so on. And then so I kept taking one step at a time, and then here I am, having completed my journey and more than 10 years in this career of academic study of Indian culture, which is the most interesting, most fun thing that one can do in this life.
Okay, allow me to ask you, practicing religion is one thing, and academically trying to understand or make others understand religion is a different thing. What would you say for Hinduism and Jainism, the way you meet practitioners and the way it is taught in the classroom here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Also, yeah, so there are two ways of studying religion, even in this country itself. So there is theological way of studying a religion, of studying a culture, or religious way, or religion studies of studying a culture. So in theological studies, what they do is they want to, the practitioners want to become more serious about their study of a religion. Whereas in religion studies, it's more academic, more objective study. The idea, the goal is not to convert to any religion, but idea is to study it objectively from an outside perspective. So an American, if he or she is taking my class, the goal is not to convert. I'm not there to convert him, but just to make him aware enough from both insiders' perspective and outsiders' perspective, so that he or she can get a holistic perspective of our culture. So it's a study, but sometimes that does happen, that the study becomes so interesting and the student becomes so interested that they decide to stay in India for more than 10 years. For example, my own professor, Professor Frederick Smith at University of Iowa, he has spent his more than 10 years in India. So he knows probably much more Sanskrit than many Indians in this country, or in India. So by one's dedication, one's interest, if it becomes so serious, one can it can change one's entire life. But because Indian culture does have all that power and all the influence, that it can change one's life, it can transform one's attitude towards life, towards the world, and so on. And I think we need more and more of that. I think we, in this country especially, we are missing so many, we are committing so many mistakes against the environment, against ecology, against global population, and so on. So I think Indian culture has so much to offer, that without even going there to convert to Hinduism, you don't have to become a Hindu to learn from Indian culture and adopt all the great things that Indian culture has to offer in India and in here also. So my attempt is always to bring in those things, those pearls, those jewels, those diamonds that are still buried under all the sun and sand and dust of thousands of years in India. So Indians themselves have forgotten, and obviously Americans have no idea of what India has to offer to the world.
Allow me to interrupt you,
Yeah.
Pankaj. And when
Sure. Sure.
we talk about culture and religion in Indian context, many times the overlapping area of culture and Hinduism is quite significant. So, in one way, something that you would term as culture, it's a part of religion also. But if you call it religion, then there will be some people who might have their reservations to appreciate it, even if it is something as simple as loving all or considering the whole world as a family.
Yeah, all these words are, we are talking in English. So when we talk in English, we use English words, right? There is no such word as religion in our vocabulary. In Indian language में हिंदी हो या तमिल हो या तेलुगु हो या उर्दू हो, कोई भी भाषा भारत की अगर लेंगे हम साउथ एशिया की, तो ये category, ये word, this religion word does not exist in not just in India, but even in Japan, in China, in Africa, in Native Americans. So almost all the non-Western traditions do not have the category called religion, because religion is a category which dichotomizes itself from secular. So secular is separate, religion is separate. That's not the way non-Western cultures work in India, China, Japan. So, for example, in Japan, I'll give you an example. India का तो हमको पता ही है सबको. Let me give you an example from Japan, which your viewers may find more interesting, I think. So in Japan, in 90s, there was a survey done, and people, Western scholars obviously, they went there and they asked people in Japan that, are you a Shinto or are you Buddhist? So 90% of them said we are Shinto, and 80% of them said we are Buddhist. So they are both Shinto and Buddhist at the same time. So same thing goes for China. They are Taoist, Confucianist, nature worshipper, ancestor worshipper, all at the same time, Buddhist, all at the same time. And same goes for India also. So how do we define, where does Hinduism stop and Jainism begin, for example? Where does Hinduism start and Buddhism stop, for example, or Hinduism, Sikhism? All these are so many overlaps we can find in all these four traditions of India, that it's hard to construct a crisp boundary around Hinduism. So this is Hinduism and this is not Hinduism. So religion, culture, all these terms are very Western English words. For our purposes, the words that we can use is dharma or Sanskriti. That again, dharma again has so many multidimensional interpretations, significances, as I'm sure you also are very aware of.
So we talk about religion, we talk about culture, and there are two words starting with S which are waiting for us. One is spirituality, another is secularism. So let us talk about the way secularism is being used politically in Indian context these days? What do you think?
We're just opening can of worms here. Two more questions. It could be one of the most controversial questions ever. Yeah, secularism again is a very, very, very Western-centric word. It comes out of the again that dichotomy I talked about, the religion and secular division, which doesn't work in non-Western cultures. But it came out of that context when the Reformation happened and Enlightenment happened. Religion became separate, secular became separate in the European context, and we are so good in blindly copying the West that we just don't even think and just blindly copy whatever words that are given to us by the British or by Americans. We just love to copy. But to remind myself, to remind everybody else, is that we have to really think of Gandhi here. The Gandhi, when he used the word, I think he rarely used the word English language in his thinking. Maybe he used it for conversing with Europeans, obviously. But what he did in his life is that he did not make this dichotomy between religion and secular. He openly said, and that's what I love, that he openly said and practiced that religion cannot be separated from politics. He was all in favor of mixing. He said that politics without religion will only give us atom bombs and all the nuclear bombs and so on. Religion is very much needed. So what he meant when he said that, I think what he meant was that religion as a soul force, as satyagraha as the word that he used, the spiritual power as the word that you used, Ashok, just now. The spiritual power is, I think, very essential, not just in politics, but in almost all the discourses. To solve any problem in the world, we need that spiritual, most fundamental force that can influence, that can change people's hearts. That's what Gandhi used, and that's what I'm in favor of that.
So how practicing religion also makes you more aware of your responsibility towards Mother Nature.
Right. So if you noticed, as you mentioned the name of my book, I don't call my book Hinduism and Ecology. I don't call my book Religion and Ecology. I call my book Dharma and Ecology again. Because dharma, as we already discussed, dharma already includes several dimensions of religion and law and virtues and properties and cosmic rhythm and so on. But the Sanskrit root of the word dharma comes from dhri. Dhri means to sustain. So dharma automatically includes the meanings of sustainability and sustenance. So by its very definition, dharma means to sustain, and that's the whole push in ecological discourses today, is to sustain, to be able to sustain our progress, to be able to sustain the world and so on. So in that very raw definition of dharma, it already includes the significance of ecology and environmental studies and so on. So that's why I tend to make it. Dharma is a so open word, such a flexible term that it can connect with ecology and with religion and with virtue and with morality and so on. So people who practice dharma in India, even today in villages, for example, Vishnu villages, in Rajasthan.
Yes.
So what they have been doing for more than 500 years, they have been laying down their lives to save some trees, some deer, some black bugs, some birds and so on. So that does not come for them from this global discourse of climate change and biodiversity and so on. It's just in their dharma, in their tradition, to save the trees, to save the animals and birds and so on. So there are several such examples in which you don't have to call yourself Hindu or Jain or Buddhist. You just practice your dharma because that's what is your culture. That's what is the rules of your given to you by your guru. And by practicing that, you automatically take care of ecology without even being conscious about ecology. So saving ecology or working for conservation of nature comes as a byproduct if you're practicing the dharma. So that's my argument.
Yeah. I think you also met many Vishnois during the course of your study while you were in India,
Right.
probably working on your book. So now, many times we find people who are, let's say, professors, you are a professor too, but they feel that they know much more about the religion than the practitioner because they have this academic knowledge.
Yeah.
So they sometimes have a kind of condescending attitude. And they look down upon them that because these people are just practicing, they really don't know more about this. So taking this kind of a mindset, which is
Right.
possible in someone who is very erudite, very learned academically. How was your interaction with these simple folks from Vishnoi community?
Yeah, that's again a very nice question. So what can happen potentially is that when a researcher from the West, especially, goes to the villages in India or elsewhere, in the beginning of the process, he or she might go with all the humility and all the politeness because he is in need of all the research data.
Right.
And when they come back here, there is a danger that they can give it any twist that they like. And that's what has happened, unfortunately, in many controversies that we have been seeing in last several decades and even centuries. I think even Max Muller, the very first scholar who was part of the Oriental studies, he never set his foot in India, and he translated books upon books from Sanskrit to English, and which give all kinds of problems, all kinds of twists and misinterpretations that today's scholars are already challenging their own predecessors like Max Muller and William Jones and so on. So that can potentially happen, and it has happened in the past. So I think my approach has been that I do not go looking for problems in the world as somebody coming from America with all kinds of solutions and the baggage of solutions to be offered to these poor illiterate villages, so to speak, right? I go there as a student. I go there to looking for solutions. What are the solutions that India can offer to the world? That has been my approach. That is still my approach. I do not go looking for problems and I, as a scholar, can offer you these solutions. No. I see that America already is full of problems, and we need to learn from other cultures what India can offer to the world, to America and to the world. Because what America does today, the world follows blindly. So what can we offer to American students here? How we can be environmentalists without calling ourselves an environmentalist? How can we cut down our consumption? How can we learn from the way water has been treated by Bishnois and Indians at large? How precious each drop of water is in India. I'm sure you know very well, and I know very well. We come from Rajasthan, the dry state of India. So I remember my own grandmother walking miles to fetch one pail of water, right? One bucket of water. So the preciousness of water, preciousness of air, preciousness of land, and all the reverence that we have. For thousands of years, we have been revering our mountains and rivers and lakes and trees and even stones. So all that has to be reminded to us and to the world that reverence, that respect for nature is I think much in need today in today's problems, climate change problems and so on. So my approach has been go and learn these solutions and apply it to the world. Do not go looking for problems. That is my approach. I hope I answered your question in some way at least.
What is it that makes us take that crucial decision of changing our career?
So we'll continue this conversation, but we thought as Pankaj Ji, Dr. Pankaj Jain was mentioning about preciousness of air, preciousness of water. For us, most precious are viewers. And let's see who wants to reach out and connect with this conversation. Hello, ITV Live. अपना टीवी का वॉल्यूम कम करके बात करें.
हेलो.
हाँ जी, नमस्कार.
नमस्कार जी.
जी.
अभी बात हो रही थी, सिख हैं और जैनी हैं, हिंदू हैं.
जी.
मैं कहता हूँ हिंदू सभी हैं. हिंदू नाम है नेशन का. हिंदू वो है जो मरने के बाद जिसकी बॉडी को जला दिया जाता है. दुनिया में ऐसा सिस्टम और कहीं नहीं है. ऑल आर हिंदूज. हिंदुओं को डिवाइड करने के लिए वे ऑफ वर्शिप डिफरेंट हो गया. बुद्ध है, जैनी है, सिख है. राम सिंह हुआ या राम प्रकाश हुआ है तो हिंदू. गुरु हमारे गुरु गोविंद सिंह थे या राम किशन थे. हम राम और कृष्ण की संतान है. किसी का नाम कृष्ण है, किसी का नाम राम है, राम प्रकाश है या राम सिंह बन गया.
आपका नाम क्या है?
हिंदू को डिवाइड करने के लिए हम कहते हैं ये जैनी है, ये सिख है.
जी.
जो मरने के बाद जला दिया जाए वो हिंदू है. हिंदू इज ए नेशन.
सो वेरी गुड कॉन्सेप्ट. और आपका नाम क्या है?
जी. इसकी संस्कृति है. आप देखिए कि बम्बई के अंदर 8 साल पहले हवाई जहाज चला और यहाँ चला 1904 में. 8 साल पहले चला. नाम राइट ब्रदर का आ रहा है. हमारी संस्कृति को दबा दिया गया.
आपके पास बहुत सारी
ऊपर नहीं दिया. जिस दिन हिंदुस्तान तरक्की कर गया, 2-4 मोदी जैसे पैदा हो गए तो ये लोग अमेरिका वाले जाया करेंगे वीजा लेके इंडिया में.
तो बहुत सारी बातें आपके साथ.
हिंदुस्तान में अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं है, इसलिए हमारे लोग यहाँ आते हैं. हमारी साइंस बहुत तरक्की कर चुकी है. जब अंग्रेज फटर होते थे लड़ाई में तो इनकी स्टिचिंग वहाँ होती थी. जुलाई कर देते थे मोची कर देते थे, लेकिन हमारे इतिहास को दबा दिया गया है। हिंदू को हिंदू कहना पाप समझा गया है पिछले 60 साल में। अगर हिंदू को हिंदू बनाया जाए, उनकी संस्कृति देखी जाए, तो सब दुनिया से अच्छी है।
तो आपकी ये बातें हम तक पहुंची, और आपका शुभ नाम?
बेस जो है,
जी जी,
ज्यादा दिमाग था। ओपी कपूर है जी। मैं तो बस थोड़े दिनों में चला जाऊंगा दिल्ली वापस।
अरे फिर हम आपको यहाँ बहुत मिस करेंगे।
तो पंजाब जलंधर।
जी जी, आपने कॉल करके जो पहली बात कही वो भी बहुत
तो वाइफ की ट्रीटमेंट के लिए बैठा हूँ।
अच्छा, तो आपका स्वास्थ्य जल्दी अच्छा हो, ऐसी कामना करते हुए हम कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हैं, आपका धन्यवाद करते हुए। जी, तो बात हम कर रहे थे डॉक्टर पंकज जैन से, जो हमारे साथ बने टेक्सास से वाया स्काइप, and we talked about various issues, or we also got to learn something new about Mahatma Gandhi from Pankaj ji. He, as you know, is an author, and he's an accomplished professor at such young age. I also asked him whether it is all right for someone who is a professor to share his political views and make a call in favor of this or that party. So let us hear this part of my conversation with Pankaj.
So do you think having some sort of a political inclination is all right for academicians, or they should refrain from making their political commitment available openly for the public and call for this or that action?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think I personally, I don't want to speak for other academicians. I think I'll just speak for myself. I think that I do not consider myself an expert on Indian political scene, or political science is a separate field. So I would rather refrain from making any statement or joining the herd and making some petitions against a politician, or for a politician, or for a political party, or against a political party. All I can say is that I would really hope that whichever leader emerges from all the most exciting elections in the world, that leader should really be so innovative, and we can only hope for the best. I don't know when will that happen, but my hope, sincere hope, is that a leader should be such an innovative, such an original thinker like Gandhi was. Gandhi never copied the Western ideas or Western theories, and never wholeheartedly applied them in the context of India. Gandhi was a very innovative thinker. We need an innovative thinker in India. So unfortunately, what we see, especially in the last 20 years, starting from 90s, is that instead of offering to the world what Indian culture has to offer, we have been so fast in copying everything from the world, from the West. All the mistakes that the West has already committed, has already polluted its river and so on, and now it's cleaning up its rivers in the West. We are following the same path of same mistakes. We are creating same kind of shopping malls all over India. We are going in for same kind of industrial development in all across India. Instead of that, I would hope that the Indian leaders will go for renewable energy in a much bigger way, for example, than going for fossil fuel, for example, or some other non-Western solution that Indian culture can offer. For example, water problem is so severe in India, you know, and I know. So instead of going for big dams, that the West had given this solution to construct huge dams to store water, why cannot we revive our own traditional technology of rainwater harvesting? Rainwater harvesting, again, you know, and I know also that in Rajasthan there are several such villages where Bishnois have been storing each drop of water for year round. So even if there is not a single drop of water in the rainy season for, let's say, 3 or 4 years, even then in some villages there is no problem of water, because they have been storing each water drop so preciously, so carefully, so meticulously. So these traditional technologies, so let me give an example from Himalayas. You mentioned about Fulbright Fellowship. So I spent 4 months in Himalayan state of Uttarakhand. What I saw there is so interesting. So electricity is another problem in India, right? So instead of going for fossil fuel-based power generation, what Uttarakhand has been doing for hundreds of years is, because of the Himalayan state, there are several waterfalls across the Himalayas. So each waterfall, they had already had some kind of water mills, like they call it gharat, and in other places we call it gatti or chakki. So what they do is, because of the waterfalls, water energy, that waterfall, that force of water is used to create electricity. That electricity is used to for flour mill and so on. So these kind of traditional technologies are already available in many parts of India. We just need to revive those non-Western alternative technologies, traditional technologies, and I think we can solve several problems. We don't have to blindly copy the Western models of huge dams or huge power plants and so on. We have to decentralize and diversify our model of our development. That's what Gandhi always argued for. The Panchayati Raj, the democratization of the political power also. Why should all the decisions of the village, why should they all be taken in New Delhi, or in the case of America, why should all the decisions be centralized in Washington, D.C.? It has to be decentralized and democratized at the ground level. That's what Gandhi argued for, and that's what I'm hoping that whoever comes as new leader will go for all that. But let's see. Let's wait and watch. I don't know what.
You would probably find it interesting that everything that we talk about, it reminds us of some or the other political slogans. So what you were saying about decentralization reminded me of the narrative of Aam Aadmi Party, and then when you were talking about Mahatma Gandhi's ideas about not separating religion from politics, and I thought Congress has always sort of showed itself as if it is following the Gandhian path. So they have actually, I haven't heard any leader openly talking about it. And there is more and more of conscious separation of religion to the extent that it sometimes comes across as disrespecting religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is again. Politics has become so messy, unfortunately, and Gandhi and all these slogans have just become political slogans without ever studying in depth what Gandhi exactly did, what Gandhi exactly wrote. Gandhi wrote more than 100,000 pages of letters and articles. Which political party has time or interest or passion to really study what Gandhi wrote or Gandhi said or Gandhi practiced without preaching others? He first practiced how Gandhi took care of his goat and his small children, not his own, even his own children, and his own people in ashram where he was living, and so many other things, and how he walked for miles and miles together for every day, how he practiced meditation, and how he consciously merged all the religious traditions of the world. He included Islam and Christianity, of course, Hinduism and Jainism and Buddhism, all the religions of the world, Judaism also, whenever he did his morning and evening prayer and all that. I don't think any party in India is following that model at all. It's just a grab of power and by hook or by crook, and just then follow the industrial development model, which is not in the best interest of India or the world, because we are 1.2 billion people, and if we are all in India, if we go for big cars and big houses and washing machines and dishwashers in every Indian home, world will be finished in no time. We don't have any resources left for to go again the Western model to be followed in India, and that's my argument.
So, Pankaj, looking at the way we are growing or developing as a human race, where technology definitely has become an integral part of our lives, and the kind of closeness with nature and simplicity and traditional technology that you were talking about, do you see any possibility of merger of these two viewpoints which would serve everybody in a more holistic manner?
Yeah, I think we don't necessarily have to reject all the technologies completely. I think even in technological world, I think there is a now new push to invent, to discover, to design sustainable technologies, right? For example, renewable energy or solar panels at a cheaper cost, and which can be universalized all across the world. I think we are looking for such kind of solutions. So we need technologies which are renewable, which are affordable by the people in India and China, for example. And that can only happen when we all really put our minds and hearts together and look for such solutions instead of going for old models of technologies which were big power plants and big dams. That's not going to help. That's not going to work this time around, because we are at such a tipping point that once the climate, we are already seeing the effects of climate change, and we have to really wake up and really go for alternative solutions, I think.
How do you see youth who are a part of your class, do they connect with this kind of mindset? So to bring it back, how is this faculty of having more patience working in youth today?
Oh wow, yeah, that is a challenge. I cannot hide it, and I think youth are constantly distracted. Youth and us also. I think we do get distracted by our cell phones and whatnot. So it's a challenge, but I think again we have to, if we have to take care of our physical and mental health, I think, right, we have to go back to yoga and pranayama and meditation. If we do not do that, we are destroying our own health. So first, without worrying about the world, without worrying about the climate change or my students, I have to take care of my own health. So for last more than 20 years, I've been practicing my own yoga, dhyan, pranayam at my own little private space, private time in every morning. So, and that sooner the better, I think. I think already in America, for example, and in India also, I think millions of people have realized that, and they have already been practicing yoga for at a massive level. And I think there is not a single gym in America where is no yoga lesson being offered. It has become a multi-billion-dollar industry now here in America. Everything becomes an industry. But people have already realized that, and people are already practicing that. And sooner the better, I think. So Indians also, thanks to Baba Ramdev and other gurus who have popularized yoga, and Sri Ravi Shankar, for example, meditation and pranayama and so on. So sooner the better, I think, for our own health and for planet's health. So sooner my students also realize that it's better for them also. I think all I can say is that.
And how practicing yoga and meditation helps one in being open to the creative insight that is there in all human beings, because many times we are so much preoccupied or working with already available thoughts that we don't have space for a new way of looking at the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal, and I have not reached that point yet. But all I can say is that again, I can probably think of Gandhi here. That Gandhi, obviously, we all know that he was a very strict vegetarian. But did you know that in his refrigerator, in his kitchen, I don't know if he had a refrigerator, but in his kitchen, he kept meat. Why? To offer to his European friends and visitors. So he never forced his view of vegetarianism on his European
Honestly,
friends.
Pranga, I never heard about it, and I find it quite strange actually.
It is
Because
shocking. I think I was
it is
shocked
shocking,
when I
yeah.
first.
So to say, because I wouldn't imagine that
I'm
happening.
sharing, whatever I'm sharing is all coming from academic research from scholars who have spent their lifetime studying Gandhi. I have not studied Gandhi that much, but scholars who have studied Gandhi, I've read their articles, and what I'm sharing is really the truth that Gandhi
Okay,
offered.
so this is really, I'm hearing it for the first time, so I want to repeat it if you missed it. What Pankaj is saying is that based on the research that he did, Mahatma Gandhi ji, who always practiced vegetarianism. I'm missing the correct pronunciation, but he used to keep meat in his kitchen to be offered to European visitors. And so this tells us about the kind of flexibility which was there in him. And at the same time, we have always heard that he was very rigid. So this is an interesting angle.
Right. So he was, yeah, that's a good point. So he was conservative and progressive at the same time. What he practiced was very, very progressive. He was revolutionary in probably everything that he did. But what he said probably sometimes was very conservative. So he said probably that he was a Hindu or Vaishnav, or he was. So some of his statements can be seen as very conservative, but some of his practices were very, very progressive, much ahead of his time. So even before the term environment came into our dictionary, came into our vocabulary, he was the most active environmentalist that the world has ever seen, I think, in the last 200, 300 years at least. He was such a great conserver of water and traditional toilets, for example, traditional way of making fertilizer, for example, composting and so on. Now that we are just waking up to all that, Gandhi already practiced 100 years back, all that we are now only learning now to do it in America and in India. So he was much ahead of his time in many, many ways.
So we are talking to Dr. Pankaj Jain, and he has also written a book called Dharma and Ecology of Hindu Communities, Sustenance and Sustainability, which won him Denham Book Award as well as Oberoi Book Award. And he connected with me via Skype from Texas. I also asked him about his India visit as Fulbright scholar, wherein he also got to see the key holy city Varanasi. So, in the next segment of my conversation, he shares his experiences of being in Varanasi and his views on what we can do without depending on the government to clean our environment. So, let us take a look at this last part of my conversation with Dr. Pankaj Jain.
When we are in a position to learn on the field, that's a great thing which can happen. So, going back to your experience of being in India as Fulbright scholar, tell us what were the main areas and what was it that you had in mind while you landed there this time?
Right. So I'll also mention a little bit about my book's focus and then come to Fulbright. So in the book, I already talked about Bishnois, but also in the book, the major chapter is on the Swadhyaya movement, Swadhyaya Parivar. What they have done across Gujarat, Maharashtra, and many other states is they have created new, what is called as sacred groves or Vriksh Mandir in Indian language. So what they've done is they take a piece of land in the village as a family in the village. The whole village comes together as a family and gets a piece of land, and there they grow some fruit trees, for example, or do some farming, for example. So that farming produce does not belong to one person or one family in the village; it belongs to the entire village. Then that is offered to Lord, to Bhagwan. Whatever Mahalakshmi comes out of that produce is used as a prasad or is distributed very silently in the villages, wherever there is need in the villages, is distributed as a prasad, not as a charity, not as a donation, but as a prasad. So see, these are some of the things that we have been, some of the people in India have been doing, for example, Swadhyaya Parivar has been doing. So that's what I want to highlight, that the even idea of donation or idea of helping or philanthropy does not have to be based on the Western model of superiority and inferiority, right? Everybody is equal because everybody is finally part and parcel of the same divinity, same Brahman is everywhere. That's the Hindu Vedanta philosophy. So by that token, everybody is equal, everybody's whole world is one family. And so that's another example I wanted to share. Then in the Fulbright research that I did in Himalayas for 4 months, as I mentioned, so that there I came across another NGO called HESCO, Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization. What they have been doing in the last more than 20, 30 years is that reviving some of these gharar that I mentioned, water mills, to generate electricity, to revive the traditional ways of farming. So what has happened again because of copying the West? So in Punjab, for example, what has happened, that the entire land of Punjab has been polluted and destroyed by the rice farming and the wheat farming. What has happened is because of the that, as you mentioned, the impatient model of development. Everybody is in such a hurry. सबको इतनी जल्दी है, पैसा जल्दी कमाना है, जल्दी खेती ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा चावल उगाना है या अनाज उगाना है. उसमें क्या हुआ कि they have put all kinds of chemical fertilizers and pesticides in the land, and the whole land has been destroyed in Punjab at a massive level. To that extent that there is a special cancer train from Punjab to Bikaner in Rajasthan because the villages are so much affected by all these chemicals. So this Western model of agriculture also needs to be fixed. So what they have done in Uttarakhand is that they have gone back to traditional farming. In traditional farming, क्या होता था कि not just one grain, not just wheat or rice, but all kinds of dals, all kinds of grains, मक्का, बाजरा, उड़द, चावल, गेहूं सब साथ में उगाते थे. उससे क्या होता था कि the land will maintain its fertility and the produce also will be much healthier without the need of chemical fertilizers or chemical pesticides. So these are again some of the traditional ways of farming, for example. So that need to be revived also. So that's what I researched in Himalayan villages and water mills, for example, and many such examples where they have combined some of the modern technology also, and they have gone back to traditional way of farming and electricity generation and so on.
So while you were mentioning about Uttarakhand, I was reminded of the recent natural calamity which this area faced. You were there much before that, right?
That was in 2012, last year. 2013, for example. Sorry, yeah,
right. So when I was interviewing some of the spiritual leaders who visited that area, the common thing I heard from them about the possible reason why it happened is that they said we have started disrespecting nature.
बिल्कुल.
And they were saying that we are not paying respect to the sanctity of that area.
Absolutely.
Now that is a concept which any eye that is looking at this area just from a secular political viewpoint would find difficult to understand, recognize, and appreciate. Because the important element which is being mentioned by these spiritual leaders, it is a part of Indian culture, but it also somewhere gets into the territory which is termed as Hindu religion. So I think that's an area which maybe academicians may also help in making people understand how to reconcile with this, because it's ultimately hurting nature.
राइट. बहुत ही अच्छा प्रश्न आपने किया. एक बार फिर मैं आपको एकदम नया उदाहरण आपको देता हूँ, which you may never have heard of. In उड़ीसा में क्या होता है? There is a special festival called Raja Parv. Parv means festival. Raja means giving rest to the Mother Earth, to ocean, and to Mother Earth and Mother Nature in general. So what they do in Odisha, Hindus and Adivasis and Muslims, they all take a break from their farming cycle. Why? Because that is the time when our mother needs some break, some rest. So just as women take four days of rest every month, Mother Nature and Mother Earth also needs that rest.
Wow.
So that understanding has gone into Muslim minds also for hundreds of years. This is not political movement. This is not a recent phenomenon. It has been happening for hundreds of years. So this is the way the cultural ideas have entered into all kinds of minds in India. There is no boundary where Hinduism stops and even Islam starts, for example, in this instance. So similarly, if politicians were really serious in Uttarakhand, they would not have gone back and would not have copied that same Western model of constructing huge dams and huge highways up in the hills in Uttarakhand. So in that process, what they've done is with all the blasts and devastations and the highway constructions and so on, जब आप बड़ा बांध बनाएंगे आपको blast करना पड़ेगा पहाड़ में. पहाड़ जब blast होंगे तो सारी जो जड़ें हैं पहाड़ की, the Himalaya already is very fragile mountain. So with all these blasts, because the landslide started happening much faster. So जैसे थोड़ी बारिश आई और सारा का सारा केदारनाथ जैसे बह गया. So because of all these blasts and big dams and big power companies that have entered Uttarakhand, so that is the way they have disrespected the nature.
Pankaj, recently we observed Earth Day, and this tradition was started in America from 1970. How this Earth Day, as is observed by many countries now, connects with the way India is connecting with Earth? Some similarities, some differences. What would you say?
अशोक जी, मैं तो कहूँगा कि हम भारत में अर्थ डे हजारों सालों से मनाते आए हैं. एवरी डे इज अर्थ डे फॉर अस, राइट? जब हम उठते हैं सुबह तो सबसे पहला जो श्लोक बोलते हैं वो ये होता है, समुद्र वसने देवी पर्वत स्तर मंडले विष्णु पत्नी नमस्तुभ्यम पाद स्पर्शं क्षमस्व में. इसका मतलब ये है, ओ मदर अर्थ, you are the wife of Lord Vishnu. You have been nurturing us, caring us with your mountains and rivers. And since I'm touching you with my feet, I ask for forgiveness. तो उठते ही पहला काम ये करते हैं हम कि मदर अर्थ से हम क्षमा मांगते हैं, क्योंकि हम मदर अर्थ पे हम टच करने वाले हैं. हम अपने पाँव से उसको टच करने वाले हैं, जो कि बहुत ही गलत माना जाता है हमारे कल्चर में. तो मदर अर्थ का अर्थ डे तो हमारे लिए हर दिन होता है, हर सेकंड होना चाहिए, ऑब्वियसली, राइट? तो ये तो बहुत ही ऑब्वियस है कि अच्छी बात है कि वेस्ट भी waking up to this fact to respect the mother earth and celebrate at least once a year to celebrate earth day. और तो इसकी तो मुझे लगता है इसकी अवेयरनेस और ज़्यादा बढ़नी चाहिए, बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़नी चाहिए. अभी तो अर्थ डे हैज जस्ट बिकम अनदर रिचुअल, एंड व्हाट हैपेंस ईयर अराउंड वो तो सब भूल जाते हैं. एक दिन अर्थ डे मनाने से क्या होगा? हर दिन हम जब नहाते हैं, बाथरूम में जब नहाते हैं तो कितना पानी वेस्ट करते हैं, वो वहाँ पे अर्थ की इंपॉर्टेंस पता लगती है. हम किस तरह का खाना खाते हैं, क्या हम आज भी शाकाहार को वेजिटेरियनिज्म की तरफ जा रहे हैं या नहीं जा रहे हैं? द बिगेस्ट रीजन फॉर क्लाइमेट चेंज, सेकंड बिगेस्ट रीजन एटलीस्ट, is the meat eating, the meat industry, which grows all these cattle and all the methane that is raised by all these cattle. These are some of the huge reasons for climate change. All the cars and so on. So all these things have to really change. World has to go for less and less meat eating. In India also, there is not 100% vegetarianism, as we know. But for the most part, even if somebody is eating meat, they will eat like let's maybe once a week or twice a week or so on, not like thrice a day. What happens here? So less meat consumption, less consumption of all the nature's resources, and all that has to be done every day, every second, not just once a year. So that's my take on that.
So, when you say avoid meat, that is also going to help Earth.
मैंने कहा ना आपको, जैसे कि जब मीट ईटिंग से क्या होता है कि जो कैटल जो रेस की जाती है, उस कैटल से जो मेथेन निकलती है, जो CH4 जो मेथेन गैस जो निकलती है, उससे क्लाइमेट चेंज पे इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है. और प्लस जो मीट जो ट्रांसफर होगा मीट, यहाँ थाउजेंड्स ऑफ माइल्स ऑफ ट्रैवल will be required to raise all the cattle, all the food that we have to give to cattle, all the fertilizers that have to go to raise this grain to feed the cattle, and so on. So because of all that, yes, it creates
So now we go back to Mother India with you, and you were also in Varanasi. Varanasi is very much in the news for various reasons, and presently, since you know, Prime Ministerial candidate of BJP filed his nomination yesterday, Narendra Modi, and he also, after or during that, mentioned that he visualizes this place as a spiritual capital, or it to become spiritual capital. So, just keeping this spiritual capital word with us, share how was your experience while you were in Varanasi? Was there something you felt that this city needed, or the way it is, if we call it being preserved or sustained, is the ideal way?
बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न किया. मुझे सारी यादें ताज़ा हो गई मेरी. मैं 2011 में वाराणसी में था, 3-4 दिन के लिए पहली बार गया था तब. और तब मुझे याद है होटल मेरी जो थी वो एकदम गंगा किनारे ही थी. तो सुबह उठते ही 4 बजे सबसे पहला दृश्य गंगा का दृश्य, ऊपर से तीसरे, थर्ड और फोर्थ फ्लोर से. इतना पावन दृश्य गंगा का जो हमने सुना है अब तक, फिल्मों में देखा है या गानों में सुना है, लेकिन जब आप सामने देखते हो गंगा को ऊपर से, बहुत ऊपर से, तो बहुत 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 ही पावन दृश्य होता है. जैसे पक्षी चारों तरफ उड़ रहे हैं गंगा के ऊपर, और चारों तरफ भगवा झंडे हैं, और नाव के ऊपर भी झंडे होते हैं, भगवा ध्वज, और लोग अपने अपने कुछ अर्चना कर रहे हैं, पानी में अंजलि दे रहे हैं, आचमन कर रहे हैं. वो सब बहुत बहुत पावन दृश्य होता है. तो कहीं और आप जाएं या नहीं जाएं, लेकिन अगर आप इंडियन हैं तो एक बार आप वाराणसी जरूर जाएं, मेरी सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है ये. तो बहुत ही स्पिरिचुअल कैपिटल आई थिंक सही अर्थ में कह सकते हैं वाराणसी को हम, क्योंकि ये वाराणसी को मोक्षपुरी भी कहा जाता है. और इवन एकेडमिकली इट हैज बीन प्रूव्ड that the most ancient city in India, which has continuous history of more than 6,000 years, is Varanasi. वाराणसी भारत की सबसे पुरानी शहर है, सबसे पुराना शहर है. और हम ये एक और मिसकंसेप्शन हमारे दिमाग में शायद है कि भारत में सिर्फ गांव बसते हैं, सिर्फ गांव का ही देश है भारत. ऐसा नहीं है. वाराणसी एक शहर था, हजारों सालों से शहर था, और इसने अपनी सभ्यता को शहर के रूप में कायम रखा है 6,000 साल से. तो ये सब तो आपके साथ शेयर करना था. और जो आपका प्रश्न है, तो ये बहुत दुख की बात है कि ऐसे पावन शहर को भी पॉलिटिक्स के इट हैज बिकम पॉलिटिकल टर्मोइल सिटी इन सम वेज. आई थिंक मुझे उस बारे में मैं कम बोल के, मैं सिर्फ यही कहूँगा कि जितना अच्छी तरह से हम शहर जो हमको हमारे पूर्वजों ने दिया है, 6,000 सालों से हमको बचा के दिया है शहर को, इसको हमको बचा के रखना है. और अभी अगर मैंने कहा दूर से, मैंने ऊपर से देखा गंगा का दृश्य तो बहुत ही पावन लगा, लेकिन अगर पास जाएंगे घाट पे तो उतनी सफाई नहीं है. तो हमको सबको मिलकर साफ रखनी है हमारे साथ. नॉट जस्ट वाराणसी बट ऑल द cities need to be kept very clean. Unfortunately, all the sewage of Varanasi also enters directly into Ganga, and that is a very horrible tradition that started back in 1930s by a British municipal officer. ऐसा पहले नहीं था. पहले वो sewage water अलग था और गंगा में एटलीस्ट नहीं जाता था वो. लेकिन उनको लगा कि they didn't realize the importance of Ganga. That
so why didn't we change it?
Probably just as a shortcut and as a cheaper way to to get rid of sewage of the city. So गंगा में जाने लगा, और तब से वो सब नदियों की हालत खराब है. As you know, all the rivers are so polluted in India because of all these sewage water and so.
So sewage water गंगा में जाने लगा, उसके अंदर कुछ बदलाव आना चाहिए. But while concluding, Dr. Pankaj Jain said that we should do our bit to help water remain unpolluted, हवा स्वच्छ हो. बहुत कुछ ऐसा है जो किया जाना चाहिए just to express our gratefulness for whatever we have received, and that gratefulness is also due for all mothers. As May is around the corner, we will be celebrating Mother's Day right here in various programs at ITV, including Inside Tonight with Ashok Vyas. But for now, time to thank you and express our gratefulness for being with us and making it a great experience. See you tomorrow. This is Ashok Vyas. Good night.